Hello, and in this video I'm going to look at the part 1 topic of writing. Do you write? Well, I write everyday stuff, but I'm not a writer, if that's what you're asking. What type of things do you write? Like I said, I'm not into writing prose or poetry, therefore the majority of writing that I tend to do is note-taking in meetings at work, emails, etc. Sadly, nowadays, my writing outside of work is limited to text messages. Do you prefer to type or write things down using a pen and paper? Regrettably, handwriting is becoming a dying art because of our over-reliance on computers. However, it is so much easier to use a computer because it can be easily rewritten or changed. Obviously, things such as birthday cards need to be handwritten because they need the personal touch. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the language in this topic. There's not many questions on part 1 writing, but they can be quite tricky to answer if you're not a writer. And most of us aren't writers, so I've written them from the perspective of somebody who's not a writer. So I'm saying I write everyday stuff. This just means everyday things, but everyday stuff makes it sound slightly more complex. But I'm not a writer if that's what you're asking. It's a very vague question, do you write? So that's why I'm saying I'm not a writer if that's what you're asking, because it gets some good grammar in there. You've got the present continuous. What type of things do you write? Well, I've already said I don't really write much, so like I said, I'm not into writing. I mean, I don't like writing. Prose or poetry? Prose is anything that's not poetry, so it's like stories or anything that's not written in a poetic form. So for this topic, it's a useful piece of vocabulary. So the majority of writing I tend to do, that I mostly do, is note-taking, so taking notes in meetings. Sadly nowadays, unfortunately nowadays, so things that you don't do at work are outside of work, and I'm saying it's limited to, and it means that that's basically all that I do. Do you prefer to type or write things down using a pen or paper? Now I could have said unfortunately here, but I've tried to use something different, regrettably, and this is something that you feel sad about, and I'm sad because handwriting is becoming a dying art. A dying art is something that was considered artistic, and handwriting, we used to spend many hours at school perfecting our handwriting, but it is a dying art because we don't write as much as we used to. And this is due to our over-reliance, and this means we depend on them much too much, that our over-reliance on them. Here we've got some good grammar. It can be easily rewritten, written again, or changed. But obviously things like birthday cards need to be handwritten because they need the personal touch. The personal touch is when you have done something and your hands have actually physically done it. If you've just stamped it with a stamp or done it on a computer, there's nothing personal about that. So that's quite a useful phrase for this topic. It is quite a tricky part 1 that can throw you because you're not a writer. You don't need to be a writer. Just say I'm not into writing prose or poetry, and just think about the things that you do write. And the reason you don't probably write very much nowadays is because of the over-reliance, the over-dependence on computers. Thanks for watching.